The morning after the fight, Rachel woke with a sore arm and heavy eyes, but her mind was clear for the first time in years. She knew what she had to do. For too long she had been silent, too afraid to move. But seeing Ethan's fear, hearing his small voice beg his father to stop, had snapped something inside her. She couldn't let him grow up believing this was what love looked like. While Daniel was at work, she packed a bag for herself and Ethan. Just the essentials, clothes, documents, a few of Ethan's favorite toys. Her hands shook as she moved around the house, but she didn't stop. She called Emily, who came right away, her face pale but determined. "We're going to the courthouse," Emily said. "You're not waiting another day." At the courthouse, Rachel filed for a restraining order and began the process of divorce. The lawyer she had met with guided her through it, assuring her that she was doing the right thing. "You have more power than you think," he said gently. "You've been carrying him on your back. Now it's time to stand on your own." When Daniel was served with the papers, his rage exploded. He called her, sent threats, promised she'd regret it. But this time, Rachel didn't bend. The restraining order meant he couldn't come near her. For the first time in years, she felt a measure of safety. The weeks that followed were not easy. Rachel cried often, sometimes from fear, sometimes from relief. Nights were the hardest, lying awake in a new apartment she had rented with Emily's help, the silence pressing against her. But slowly, she began to feel the air returning to her. She started therapy, where she spoke aloud the things she had buried for years. The coffee, the shouting, the endless control. Saying the words hurt, but it also freed her. Her therapist reminded her that healing wasn't quick, but each step she took was proof she was moving forward. Rachel reconnected with her old friends. The first time she met Sarah for coffee again, she was nervous, ashamed for disappearing for so long. But Sarah hugged her tightly and said, "You don't need to explain. I'm just glad you're here." For the first time, Rachel laughed without guilt. Ethan began to heal too. He no longer flinched at sudden noises, and at night he slept more peacefully. Rachel watched him play with his toys, his little smile slowly returning, and she promised herself she would never let anyone hurt him again. As for Daniel, the truth finally caught up with him. The lawyer kept Rachel updated. Daniel's debts were crushing, his fraud under investigation. The same arrogance that once made him seem powerful now worked against him. In court, his lies unraveled, and his control slipped away piece by piece. Rachel didn't celebrate his downfall, but she felt a deep sense of justice. He could no longer use her money, her name, or her silence to shield himself. She had broken free, and now the consequences were his to face. One evening, Rachel sat with Emily in her small living room. Ethan was asleep in his room, and the two sisters shared a bottle of wine. Emily looked at her and said, "You're different now, stronger. Do you see it?" Rachel smiled softly, her eyes misting. "Not all the time, but sometimes, yes. I feel like I'm finding myself again." For the first time in a long time, Rachel believed it. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was rebuilding. She was learning to trust her own voice, to believe she deserved safety, love, and peace. Her scars remained, both on her skin and in her heart, but they no longer defined her. They were proof of what she had endured and what she had overcome. And every day, she felt that faint spark inside her grow brighter. One quiet morning, I stood by the window of my new home with a small plant in my hands. Its leaves were green and soft, the soil fresh and damp. I placed it carefully on the windowsill, where the sunlight poured in. It wasn't just decoration. To me, it was a symbol. Growth. Roots. The chance to nurture something with care, the way I had finally learned to nurture myself. As I pressed the pot into place, I looked around my little living room. It wasn't grand. It wasn't filled with expensive things, but it was steady. It was safe. It was mine. Every corner told a story of my hard work. Every detail carried the weight of what I had overcome. I thought of my brother then, and the house he had lost. A house handed to him without effort, built on pride and entitlement. And I thought of myself, standing here in a home built not from gifts, but from years of sacrifice, long nights, and determination. They gave him a house built on sand, I whispered to myself. I built my home on stone. And this time, no one can take it away from me. The words settled in the air, soft but strong. For so long, I had been chasing love, chasing approval, chasing scraps of worth from people who never saw me clearly. But now, I didn't need any of that. I had given myself what they never could. I touched the leaves of the little plant and smiled. It would grow here, just as I would. Maybe slowly, maybe with care, but steadily, rooted in strength, reaching toward the light. And for the first time in my life, I felt whole. Not because of what I had been given, but because of what I had chosen for myself. Hey besties. Thanks for staying till the end. Imagine your mom giving your brother a house while you're left with scraps. Painful, right? But sometimes betrayal lights the fire that makes us stronger. I built my own home on stone with my own hands. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and subscribe for more. See you in the next one. The music was loud, people were talking over one another, and the smell of fried meat and jollof rice filled the air. Angela was carrying a tray of drinks from the kitchen when she noticed a hush ripple through one corner of the living room. She turned, confused, just as Maya stepped out of the bathroom. Her daughter stood frozen in the doorway. Angela's eyes went straight to her head, and her heart almost stopped. Maya's thick black curls were gone. Her head was shaved completely bald. For a second, Angela thought she was seeing things. Then the sound hit her, laughter. Her cousins, uncles, even some of the aunties burst out laughing like they'd just witnessed a comedy show. Angela's stomach twisted. She saw Maya's eyes shimmering with tears, her hands trembling as she tried to cover her head with both palms. What happened? Angela whispered, the tray of drinks shaking in her hands. From across the room, Vanessa leaned against the wall, sipping her drink with a smile too sharp to be innocent. Relax, Angela, she said, smirking. It's just a joke. Angela blinked, her chest tightening. A joke? She repeated, her voice cracking. Her hair, her beautiful hair. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Oh, please. Don't be so dramatic. It'll grow back. The laughter continued, filling the room, bouncing off the walls. Someone clapped. Another shouted, she looks like a monk. Angela's ears burned, but all she could focus on was Maya. Her daughter's face was crumbling, her tears spilling down. Angela put the tray down quickly and rushed to her. She knelt in front of Maya, holding her hands. Baby, it's okay. It's okay, she whispered, though her own voice shook. But Maya only shook her head, sobbing harder, her small body trembling under the weight of the stares and jokes. Angela looked up at Vanessa. Rage flooded her chest, hot and sharp. How could you do this? She shouted, her voice cutting through the laughter. The room went quiet for a moment. Vanessa smirked again, her gold earrings catching the light. Angela, you're too uptight. Kids need to learn not to cry over every little thing. I was just helping her toughen up. Angela stared at her, her throat dry. Around the room, some relatives looked uncomfortable, but no one spoke up. Others covered their mouths, still giggling quietly. Angela felt her face burning with shame. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to make everyone see the cruelty. But all she could do was pull Maya into her arms. She held her daughter close, the sound of her sobs drowning out the music and the whispers. In that moment, Angela felt something break inside her. Not just anger at Vanessa, not just humiliation in front of the family, but a sharp, painful fear. Fear that her daughter's spirit was cracking, just the way hers once had. Angela had always carried herself like someone holding the weight of two lives, hers and Maya's. After the divorce, there were days she thought she wouldn't make it. Years of a toxic marriage had drained her, left her doubting her worth. Her ex-husband's words still echoed in her head sometimes, sharp, belittling, reminding her how small he wanted her to feel. But when she finally walked away, she made herself one promise. Her daughter would never feel the same kind of brokenness. Life after the divorce was not easy. Angela worked long shifts at a medical office during the day and picked up part-time bookkeeping at night. Bills always seemed to arrive before her paycheck, but she managed. She cooked meals from scratch, saved coins in jars, and stretched her clothes until the fabric was tired. But through all of it, she tried to give Maya a steady home, one where love was the foundation even if money was tight. Maya was 12 now, soft-spoken, with eyes that always seemed to search the room before she spoke. She loved books, sketching, and sitting close to her mother when they watched movies. But she was also sensitive, carrying her emotions close to the surface. If someone teased her too harshly, she'd take it to heart and carry the sting for days. Angela knew this. She saw the quiet pain in her daughter's face whenever classmates made comments about her natural hair or her shy nature. That was why Vanessa's so-called joke cut so deep. Vanessa had always been the opposite of Angela. She was the golden child, the one everyone admired. Younger by 3 years, Vanessa was charismatic and flashy, with money to spend and stories to tell. She worked in finance, drove a new car every 2 years, and wore outfits that made her the center of attention at every gathering. On the outside, she was the sister who had it all together. But beneath the charm was cruelty, the kind that came out in sharp comments disguised as humor. Angela had lived with it since childhood. When they were younger, Vanessa would borrow her clothes without asking and return them stained. She would charm their parents with good grades while Angela's quiet efforts were overlooked. As adults, nothing had changed. Vanessa still found ways to belittle Angela, whether it was about her divorce, her modest apartment, or her parenting. Family gatherings were the hardest. Angela went mostly for her mother's sake. Their mother loved seeing all her children under one roof, and Angela couldn't bring herself to say no. But every visit felt like stepping into a storm. Vanessa would throw sly remarks about how tired Angela looked, or how Maya needed to come out of her shell. Other relatives, caught between loyalty and amusement, often laughed or looked away. Angela learned to bite her tongue, swallow her pride, and endure the sting. But now, after the scene at the party, she couldn't ignore it anymore. Her daughter had been targeted. Angela feared this moment for years. She knew how cruelty could shape a child. She knew how a sharp word could echo inside you long after the speaker had forgotten it. Angela's own scars were proof. She remembered being silenced in her marriage, told over and over that she was weak, dramatic, unlovable. It took everything she had to escape. And the thought that Maya, her sweet, shy daughter, might one day believe those same lies terrified her. That night, after the laughter had faded and the party ended, Angela sat awake, staring at Maya sleeping beside her. She reached out and touched her daughter's bald head gently, her throat tightening. Maya looked so small, so fragile. Angela felt anger rise in her again, but underneath it was something heavier, fear. She knew that children carried what was done to them. They carried it like invisible luggage, growing heavier as the years passed. Angela couldn't allow that. Not for Maya. She whispered to herself, not again. Never again. Angela could still feel her heart racing as she pulled Maya into her arms. The laughter around her cut like broken glass. She wanted to shield her daughter, to take her far away, but her legs were heavy, her throat tight. Slowly, she stood and turned to face Vanessa. "What did you do to her?" Angela's voice trembled, but it was loud enough for the whole room. Vanessa tilted her head, feigning innocence. "Why are you making it such a big deal? It's hair. It grows back. She'll be fine." Angela stared at her in disbelief. "Fine? You shaved my child's head without my permission. You humiliated her in front of everyone. Do you think this is funny?" A few relatives shifted uncomfortably, but others chuckled under their breath. One uncle muttered. Angela calmed down. "It's just kids' play." "She's not a kid," Angela snapped. "She's 12 years old. She's a little girl with feelings." Her voice broke, anger spilling into every word. Vanessa rolled her eyes, her smirk never leaving. "Angela, you're too sensitive. Always have been. You baby her too much, and look, she cries at everything. Someone needs to toughen her up. I was doing her a favor." Angela's hands shook. The words dragged her back to her marriage, to the nights she was told she was overreacting, too emotional, too weak. Now her own sister was saying the same thing, and in front of her child. Maya broke away from Angela's arms, tears streaming down her face, and ran down the hall. The slam of the bedroom door echoed through the house. Angela's chest clenched so tight she could barely breathe. "Look at what you've done," she shouted at Vanessa, her voice rising above the whispers in the room. "What I did?" Vanessa scoffed. "Angela, you're embarrassing yourself. Everyone here knows how dramatic you get. You can't take a joke. That's your problem, not mine." Angela scanned the room, searching for support. Her mother sat silently on the couch, wringing her hand. A cousin shrugged, trying to smile it off. "Sis, maybe just let it go. It's family. Don't make it bigger than it is." The words stung more than Vanessa's laughter. Let it go. Just like always. Silence, excuses, forgiveness that was never deserved. Angela felt her stomach twist with a familiar pain, loneliness. No one was going to stand up for her, or for Maya. Her fists clenched at her sides. "I will not let this go," she said quietly, but her voice was firm now. "You humiliated my daughter. You broke her trust. That's not a joke. That's cruelty." Vanessa's smile faltered for the first time, but she quickly hid it behind another scoff. "Angela, you really need therapy. You hold on to things too much. No wonder your marriage fell apart." The jab hit like a knife. Gasps rippled around the room. Angela swallowed hard, refusing to let her tears show. She would not cry here. Not in front of them. Not in front of Vanessa. Instead, she lifted her chin. "You can call me dramatic, weak, whatever you want. But don't you ever touch my daughter again." The silence was heavy, broken only by the muffled sound of Maya crying behind the closed door. Angela turned and walked down the hall, ignoring the stares, the whispers, the uneasy laughter that bubbled up again as though nothing had happened. She knocked softly on the bedroom door. "Maya, it's Mommy. Can I come in?" There was no answer. She tried again, her hand pressed against the wood, her own voice trembling now. "I'm here, baby. I'm not leaving you." After a long pause, the door creaked open. Maya's face was red and wet with tears. She didn't say a word, just buried herself in her mother's arms again. Angela held her close, her chest aching with both love and rage. In that moment, something inside her hardened. She thought of all the times she had stayed quiet for the sake of family peace. All the times she had been told to forgive and move on. She looked at her daughter and knew she couldn't afford silence anymore. She whispered into Maya's ear, so soft no one else could hear. "I promise you, I will never let anyone hurt you like this again." That night, Angela's vow became the line she would never cross back over. The family's laughter had fractured something permanent. It wasn't just a joke. It was a wound, and she would not let it scar her daughter the way life had scarred her.